Cleanup and recovery efforts continue across the Carolinas, Georgia, and many other states in the wake of Hurricane Helene that came through last week. Still so many, of course, in the upstate, western North Carolina, alone without power amid so many other issues and catastrophic scenes that have been unfolding. I want to take a look back now at some of the history here of Helene's track through its life cycle, essentially. We start when the system first formed early last week, around the Sunday to Monday time frame. It began, of course, as a tropical depression in the western Caribbean near the Cayman Islands, strengthened to a tropical storm, and was named sometime on Monday morning before then quickly becoming a Category 1 hurricane just to the west of Cuba. The storm then gradually worked its way closer to the Florida coast, strengthening to a Category 3 major hurricane, and then ultimately making landfall as a powerful Category 4 hurricane in the Big Bend region of Florida near the town of Perry on Thursday evening. Now from there, the storm was moving at a pretty good clip, moving at about 20 miles per hour or faster, which is unusual for a storm of that size. At its peak, the storm, at least at its peak strength, was about 500 miles across, unusual for hurricanes that large to move that quickly. But between landfall in Florida and when the center of circulation wound up passing right to the west of us along the South Carolina and Georgia border, only about 6 hours had passed. It covered more than 350 miles within that time to reach our area with a still mostly intact eye wall. And what really worked against us, on top of the 3 days of heavy rain that we had already had across the area that saturated the ground and left conditions so prime for downed trees and power lines, and of course the catastrophic flooding we have seen in so many areas, what was made worse was the fact that with the center passing just to the west of our area, that put us on the most intense and most dangerous side of the storm. And with the storm still having unusual for it to happen this far inland, but still having a mostly intact eye wall, several hours where the upstate and western North Carolina bore the brunt of still the strongest winds. Again, down from Category 4 strength, but sustained winds around that time, coming up at about 65 miles per hour. We had many locations report near, if not over, hurricane force wind gusts, again, as that worst of the storm came on through. And that's why, amid so many other factors that played into it, we saw just the sheer magnitude of downed trees, the widespread power outages that, of course, for many are still continuing and likely will for several more days before eventually the storm moved on later Friday and conditions began to quiet down. We, of course, will continue to keep you apprised of all the updates now as the cleanup and recovery efforts continue, but at least for the near future, it does not appear that any imminent storm threats are on the horizon.